knew I was.
Hey folks, let's spend some time with some friends up north. I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patty Vasquez, and from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Up North podcast. This is Kirk Bankstead with a great cast of characters today. I'm going to let Patty get herself all situated. She just got back from a commercial on WCPT. Patty Vasquez is here with us, but you can't see her. So, there she is. Hey, Patty. Oh.
Hello.
Nice T-shirt, my dear. Nice T-shirt.
Because I am on hand.
Nice. We have Simon Rosenblum Larson, who is joining us again this week. Last week, he is the leader of the Fighting Oligarchy Coalition in Wisconsin. That's what I call our resistance movement in the cheese state. Thanks for joining us, Simon.
Great to be on again. Thanks, Kirk.
And somebody you haven't met quite yet, but writes for us every week now, and he started writing for us a couple months ago, is Chris Walker, who is a journalist for truthout.org. He lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and not only does he write for us and is now joining us on our podcast, but he will be doing political trivia for us at our tap room once a month as well, because he lives right around the block. And so thanks, Chris, for joining us. We appreciate you.
Glad to be here. Can't wait for the trivia to start.
Amy just stomped on his reply, but Amy's back there producing the show, and without her, none of this could go on. So thanks, Amy, even though we can't see you right now. Okay, so this show, thanks for Patty for letting us, get into your show in Chicago.
My friend, my pleasure.
So this show, we have an hour, and there's 4 topics that we really want to cover today. First, we're going to talk about the Epstein files. Second, we're going to talk about what's going on with the Department of Homeland Security funding, which is very important in the next 2 weeks. Then we're going to talk about Wisconsin's congressional gerrymandering, not state gerrymandering. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's kind of shady. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to boycott using our dollars and talk about our Kickstarter campaign that we're trying to do to raise money for the Minocqua marketplace. So without further ado, Chris, can you get us up to speed on what's going on with the Epstein files right now?
Absolutely. So last week, the Department of Justice uploaded millions of pages of investigative material on Jeffrey Epstein and all the shenanigans that have been going on there, information on people who he was close with, including Ghislaine Maxwell, all the usual suspects that were involved with him. And these records included FBI notes, financial records, travel logs, photos, internal memos, you name it. In total, there were roughly 3 million pages that were uploaded onto the database, including 2,000 videos and also 180,000 images. There's still 2.5 million pages short of the roughly 6 million pages they said that they initially identified.
Are there any new revelations from all the stuff that they dropped over the last few days?
Yes, and I feel like there's going to be new revelations coming out every day because there's just so much stuff coming out. It's hard to get it all out there all at once. But what we do know right now is that there are documents within the files that show in the mid-2000s, federal prosecutors drafted a 56-page indictment with 30 counts against Jeffrey Epstein, including sex trafficking, enticement of a minor, conspiracy, and more. But they never filed that indictment because they went with the plea bargain deal that he ended up getting at that time. There's also claims within the Epstein files that we've seen since last week that Epstein managed or may have managed offshore wealth for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe. Prosecutors haven't substantiated those claims, but it's now in the public record, so it's there for people to kind of decide, do they believe it or not? But it's there to see, and you can judge the evidence for yourself. Now, Democrats in Congress are also suggesting that the department may be holding back material.
No.
Yeah.
What?
I'll let everyone decide for themselves too on that if you believe that. But based off of information on Trump in the first Epstein files dump, we did see that they took images off of the dump and put it back on later on and did all sorts of crazy things. The rollouts have never gone good with this so far. Some documents that have been released too, sadly, have exposed the names of and personal information of victims due to errors with redaction that the DOJ has unfortunately engaged in. This has prompted withdrawals of some of the files and revisions before they being put back on there. Survivors and advocates have criticized the pace of release. They want information out there faster, but also the inadequate redaction protections that have the DOJ has failed on. They're saying the process has really re-traumatized the victims.
Patty, I know you wrote a little bit about this on Monday, and I was under the weather, and I couldn't get a deeper dive with you on that. But
Sure.
Can you talk about what that means to you and
Sure.
what you talked about in your article on Monday?
Well, and the fact that for so long the women, they were girls, many of them were girls at the time, and are now women, and they have been sort of tricked over and over again, right? First in the assault that they underwent, for whatever way they were brought into this horrifying ring of sexual abuse. Just seeing some of the images, I'm obviously not doing a deep dive in particular when it comes to images and videos, but every once in a while you'll come across something, and it's so horrifying to see these children who were used as play toys, and how aggressively the language talks about the behaviors that these powerful people inflicted on them. It's crazy. But when I say tricked, is that they've been told that they would be protected. They were told that these, whether it's QAnon or Moms for Justice, like all these Moms for Liberty groups, always talk about protecting the girls and women. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I guess is saying that she was even betrayed, out there saying that it was about the survivors, when clearly it is entirely about protecting the abusers, these monsters around the world. Now we're hearing about this layer of, possibly using the information to trap people in powerful positions in order to have dirt on them, and for Trump to say that it exonerates, like all the different lies he's used over and over again. I mean, gaslighting isn't even the language. I wrote about that last week. It's not even gaslighting. This has all been escalation from the very beginning of controlling us, manipulating folks, because they were the ones that got so angry. The January 6th insurrectionists in part were because of what Alan, I don't even know the guy's name. Not Alan, but the guy who sells all the supplements, and said that all the Sandy Hook kids didn't even exist, that were slaughtered in their classroom.
Infowars guy.
Alex
Yeah.
Jones.
Alex
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Right.
bits with him.
Yeah, and I mean, those folks were, in part, some of them said they were there because they wanted the Epstein files released, and then he says they're a hoax, they don't exist. I mean, I'm sorry, I could just lose my mind over this, because I've been in situations where, I had the moment where a journalist said, I want to talk to you about something that's happened, a very public story here in Chicago, and then they couldn't use my story because they were threatened with a lawsuit, and that's just on a small scale. So yeah, I can't even imagine what it's like for these survivors. I really can't.
I hear you. Simon, talk to us about how this you're focused on saving democracy in both Wisconsin and America. You're coming out of the Bernie world. How does these Epstein files, what do they have to do with saving democracy in Wisconsin? We always kind of bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is an issue that's the elites versus the rest of us. Like everything else, it just proves right the idea that there's a small group of people in this country that can do whatever they want with impunity. And the fact is that, Bill Clinton or Prince Andrew or Donald Trump or whomever is on Epstein Island, these are the sort of this elite class that's dominating American politics. It's dominating our economy. It's making life hard for working people. And so I think at the end of the day, this is another one of those issues that just proves that it's us versus them. I mean, it's the 99%, the working people, versus this sort of group of elites that is in it for themselves, frankly, at the end of the day. And so in terms of saving democracy, I think this is another opportunity to rebuild a working class majority in this country. And frankly, that is the only way we're going to beat Trump, and we're going to defeat sort of his authoritarian project is by making sure that working people see through the BS that's created, the sort of man behind the curtain kind of thing that Trump and, you know, all these cronies on Epstein's Island are creating.
Chris, so I got two questions for you. One, does this continued saga with the Epstein files pull people away from MAGA and pull them on our side? And two, will anybody in this ring of billionaires ever get prosecuted?
Well, I'll answer the second one first. It doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of prosecutions coming out of this. The basic defense that a lot of people are going to have on the Epstein files is that the files coming out aren't substantiated. We can't prove this. These are just tip line things. But there are some very factual things also within the Epstein files. We mentioned them earlier before that really, frankly, should lead to prosecutions. But it without some real movement on this issue, I don't see any prosecutions coming anytime soon. In terms of what was the first question? I forgot the first question already.
The first question was the goal, in my mind, for us to be even talking about the Epstein files, because obviously we want to prosecute people, but the goal in terms of saving democracy is to make this cult realize that the thing they've been thinking about saving America. The MAGA cult has thought they were saving America by getting these pedophiles. They've been calling us pedophiles for years. Now that the tables are turned, it shows that, you know, most of their cult are the pedophiles. Are we going to get any MAGAs to pull away? Is this finally going to be the thing that gets them to pull away and start focusing on, sanity?
Sure. I think what you're going to see from that angle is you're going to see more of the MAGA light people, the people who are MAGA, but only as a hobby, only as a slight hobby, you know. And you're not going to see the people who are really entrenched in MAGA, who have made it their personality, who have made it their entire life. It's going to be hard for them to be moved by anything. But you will see some people who are on the edge of MAGA, who have supported it in the past, start to shift away. And so having this come out is kind of the accountability that they were asking for. And now that they're seeing just what is coming out, and not only that, but how hard the Trump administration fought against it coming out, that should be a reminder. We should remind ourselves of that every single time an Epstein story comes to the forefront.
Patty, take us away until the commercial.
Yes.
We'll get back to this when we get back.
It's the Up North podcast brought to you by Kirk Bankside, the Monaco Brewing Company. We're joined by Chris Walker and Simon Rosenblum Larson, and we have more to talk about when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150, and KTNF AM 950. Hi, Minneapolis. We love you.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive Beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells Progressive Beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive Beer, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC Hop Water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC Hop Water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. That's thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells Progressive Beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get Progressive Beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. The Monaco Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MinocquaMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth.
PT 820, where
North podcast. Take it away, Kirk.
Okay, so this next segment, I wanted to talk about the funding for the Department of Homeland Security. I've had a lot to say about this over the last few weeks, and I have a feeling Simon will agree with me, but I was really upset when I found out that we were not going to, that we were going to fund every other spending bill that was happening, because the only leverage Democrats have right now, because we're in the majority, is a 60-vote filibuster, and it's apparent that ICE is breaking all these laws, but it's also apparent, and we've found this out over the last few weeks, that they've already been funded to the tune of $75 billion. So shutting down the Department of Homeland Security, which is something that we're still thinking of, it's still potentially happening. They've passed all the other funding bills in America except for the Department of Homeland Security, and the Democrats are using their leverage to try to get some restrictions put on ICE. I found that to be not enough, because we need to abolish ICE and we need to use other pieces of government in order to have leverage to do that, like the air traffic controllers, which without them grounds the oligarchs. You need air traffic controllers for rich people to move around, and to me, that's what the leverage which was needed. But they passed the spending bills for the Department of Transportation. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's happening. So all we have left is the Department of Homeland Security and the negotiations happening there. Chris, can you tell us what currently the Democrats are hoping to achieve in these negotiations?
Absolutely. So within their negotiations, what they really are hoping to have passed is mandatory body-worn cameras, visible badges on ICE and other DHS agents, and a ban on face covering masks for agents. They're also seeking a statutory code of conduct for DHS agents, enforced by independent investigators, not self-enforced, who will have subpoena power to investigate those cases where they're not being followed. Democrats are also seeking caps on detention bed capacity, less money for removal operations, and bans on workplace raids at sensitive locations like schools and hospitals, maybe churches as well. And they're also looking for stronger requirements for requiring a warrant when they detain people. So, and stronger requirements for roving immigration patrols and better coordination with local police.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks, Chris. So, Patty,
Yep.
in my mind, this stuff is already part and parcel to the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Bill of Rights, right? Why do we need to ask them to do stuff that they should already be doing?
Right. Well, but you mean protections against unreasonable search and seizure? And here's the thing. They're saying that their argument is that people who aren't citizens don't have those rights, but it's presuming that that they aren't citizens, right? So that, like, using that as an excuse to bust down a door or smash in a window, those are protections under the Fourth Amendment. And here's the thing. Basically, what they've done is an administrative memo is what they've done to give themselves permission to go around the Fourth Amendment. They gave themselves a permission slip. To whom it may concern, our ICE agents have our permission to bust down doors and drag people into the streets without clothes on in sub-zero weather. Yeah, I'm just saying that's what they've done. So yeah, that seems like it shouldn't even be.
I can't believe that. I mean, time and time again, it just seems like, I'm a Democrat through and through. I will always vote. As long as there's only two parties, I will always vote Democrat. But it seems like we are just not meeting the moment here when we have people being murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, and we're trying to just enforce laws that are already in the books. Simon,
sorry,
Patty.
because the reason you have a judge sign it is because you've given proof that you're going after the right person at the right place for the right reason. Go ahead. Sorry.
Totally. So, Simon, apparently Bernie Sanders came out with an amendment that seemed way more reasonable and seemed like something that would meet the moment. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Democratic Party has again shown us the best way to bend the knee to authoritarians. Senator Sanders came out with an amendment that would have redirected the entire $75 billion in ICE funding to reverse the cuts in Medicaid. This poses the choice that the big beautiful bill already made this choice once. This is re-upping that same choice in clearer terms. Are you going to fund healthcare, or are you going to fund ICE agents roaming our streets? And the fact is, every Republican except for 2 voted to fund ICE agents roaming our streets. Now, every Democrat voted to, support Senator Sanders' amendment. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski also broke with Trump to support this amendment. But that being said, it didn't pass. And let's be really clear that it didn't pass because Republicans want to fund ICE agents over healthcare. This is the bare minimum. This is like keeping folks alive, ensuring that people can access healthcare. And Republicans voted against it. It failed, but it does offer us a little bit more of an organizing point. I think the goal of this amendment is really to draw a stark contrast between who wants to fund healthcare and who wants to fund ICE agents roaming our street. Now, this is not enough. I think we all know our healthcare system is broken, and funding Medicaid is just a pathway to get us to a universal healthcare system that works for everybody. That would be cheaper for the taxpayers in the long run. But I mean, flip a coin, like pick your side. Do you want ICE agents in our street, or do you want people to have health care?
Simon, let me re-up this question. There's a week, maybe this is a Chris thing too. I mean, we've got a week of negotiations left before we decide, to fund DHS or to not fund DHS. Is there any way that we can get this back? Because just simply getting what the demands are, what Democratic demands currently are, is not going to change anything. And we're going to potentially talk later in the show about, how we just heard from Steve Bannon yesterday that the goal is to keep on funding these ICE agents so they can stand around voting booths and detain basically anybody who they think might vote blue. This is kind of, they're going to upset elections and make it really hard for all of us to vote unless we defund them. And all we're asking for right now, the Democrats are asking for, is for some body cameras and for them to de-escalate. Is there any way in the next week, and if there is, what can we do for people listening to this podcast to talk to their senators and push them?
I mean, now's the time to hold your legislator accountable. I'll tell you what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats are setting up a situation where they can cave and still make the case to the people in their district. And you have to be able to see through that. If you're not dumb, you will be able to see through this. Chuck Schumer and folks in the, in the Senate are setting up a situation where they are able to cave without feeling like they're going to lose the next election because of it. And everybody right now should go to the 5 Calls app and start dialing their Democratic legislators and put some pressure on them to not cave. I mean, at the end of the day, if they cave, it's just another chance to bend the knee to Trump. If they win 1 or 2 of these demands, they are still bending the knee to Trump, and they're still bending the knee to a Gestapo roaming our streets. So I can't say strongly enough, they're setting themselves up to pretend like they fought for you, not to actually pick a fight.
Patty, what do you got to say about that?
I just, we have a Senate forum coming up on Friday, and if any of them listening, you can now probably hear what my question is going to be about. These votes and what they would do. Would they hold agents accountable? Are we doing investigations? Are we prosecuting? And are we abolishing the agency and coming up with something that does do, the basic immigration enforcement without these horrifying tactics? And if we are going to keep this agency, how do you recruit people after you've prosecuted a bunch of them? It's such a mess. I don't think this is fixable. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm a little bit angry.
I hear you. Chris, what do you think is going to happen? And then give us 20 seconds, and then Patty's going to lead us out.
Absolutely. I think both great points. And I do think that your point before, they gave away all the negotiation tools they had. Yep. I mean, when they kept the government open with all the other ways, they should have used that to try to keep the government, to keep the negotiations going. I agree too that the Democrats are just going to cave on this, and we're not going to see any real negotiation. And they're just negotiating for the bare minimum thing. Do the law, do the warrants, and make sure people are held to be accountable. And I hope I'm wrong.
Patty?
I don't know. Me too. I hope he's wrong too. We are joined by the Up North podcast this hour from Minocqua Brewing Company's fearless leader, Kirk Banks. I go to the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com website. Please support our Kickstarter as we expand our marketplace as an alternative to Amazon. We're back with more with Chris Walker, Simon Rosenblum Larson, and Kirk Banks, and more on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, and KTNF 950.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MinocquaMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC hop water. Zero alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC hop water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. That's thc.MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. The Minocqua Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MinocquaMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetic.
And KTNF AM 950. Sorry, that was a little bit clunky because I had a weird commercial break there. Kirk, take it away.
All right. Okay, so we're back for our third segment, and there is a and Chris, I'm gonna stomp on your report a little bit because I wanted to lead everybody in. So there's this gerrymandering in Wisconsin. We have been one of the most gerrymandered states in the union for decades. But when we worked really hard to flip the Wisconsin Supreme Court to a four-person progressive majority, now obviously judges are not supposed to lean one way or the other, but they do in Wisconsin, and they're funded that way to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars. So we flipped the court. We have a 4 progressive judge majority out of a 7-person court. We were able, through that, and the reason we got so many people to the polls was to finally make our state, un-gerrymander our state. So the first election that we're going to be able to really feel the effects of that is 2026 in our state. But what they failed to do when we un-gerrymandered our state, like last year, they failed to redraw the congressional districts. So right now, even though our state is 50-50, we are the most purple state in the union, maybe outside of Pennsylvania. And right now we have 2 Democratic Congress people. We have Mark Pocan Simon, remind me, who's our other one?
Gwenmore and Mark Pocan.
Gwenmore and Mark Pocan. And we have 7 Republican congressmen, all men. And obviously it's gerrymandered. And there's been, but they haven't changed that, and we are coming up to 2026 where it really matters if we flip the the U.S. House of Representatives, and we are still supremely gerrymandered. So, Chris, take us away over the lawsuits specifically about our congressional maps.
Sure. And so this all goes back to after the Supreme Court did flip to liberal majority. After that happened in December 2023, the Wisconsin Supreme Court's new liberal majority struck down the old Republican-drawn state assembly maps and the state Senate maps. They were deemed unconstitutional, based off of the Wisconsin state constitution. The court rejected the least change approach that had been locked in during the 2011 GOP gerrymander, and instead chose maps that were submitted by Governor Tony Evers, which created these more competitive districts that we saw in the last election and we're going to see in this upcoming election. Under the new maps, they picked up seats in 2024, and they now have a plausible path to a legislative majority for the first time in a long time in the upcoming midterm elections. And like you said, there's a problem here. We didn't do that for the congressional districts. That didn't happen. So a new lawsuit is challenging Wisconsin's gerrymandered congressional districts. So that case is going in very, very slow-mo right now. Without action soon, the new maps probably won't apply until after the election cycle. And that delay really does preserve minority rule when it comes to Wisconsin's congressional delegation. But what the Supreme Court did do is that in late 2025 and early 2026, the state court appointed 2 3-judge panels in Dane County to hear these congressional challenges using the special panel process that Republicans themselves put into law. Conservative justices dissented on that, of course, accusing the liberal majority of engineering a collateral attack on the court's earlier choice of the current congressional map. Experts say the panels, again, they could feasibly affect the 2026 midterms. But again, the delays and the appeals process could push changes out to 2028, which is exactly what Republicans are hoping will happen.
All right. Simon, what do you think our Supreme Court, why do you think these guys are slow walking this? I mean, what could possibly be the reason that these 4 justices who we worked so hard to elect are not pushing this through faster?
I truly do not have it. I wish I had an answer for you. I truly do not have an answer for you. I think it's been pretty clear that on all sides of the table, this is a pretty clear-cut case. I mean, it's a no-brainer that these maps are insane. I mean, we have a 50-50 state, a coin flip state, and we're gerrymandered to heck. And I think at the end of the day, you've heard it from Mark Pocan, you've heard it from Gwen Moore. I mean, the two of them are very, very clear about where things stand. Gwen Moore said, the people of Wisconsin have been robbed of the full power of their vote by extreme gerrymandering in the state since 2011. Voters should not be asked to participate in another election with rigged maps. Our court should move with deliberate speed to remedy this wrong and strengthen our democracy. Mark Pocan said it's good Wisconsin has fair maps at the state level, but we deserve them at the federal level as well. Unfortunately, gerrymandered maps for members of Congress will remain in Wisconsin unless the Supreme Court steps up. We made this mistake at the federal level with a lot of things. We relied on the Supreme Court to defend our rights. At some point in time, we're going to have to enshrine this in Wisconsin law. We're going to have to ensure that Wisconsin's maps are drawn fairly. And we're going to have to win this fight politically, not just in the courts. And I think this is we see a reliance on the courts fail us over and over and over again. It's time we learn our lesson. It's time we build the power to make this a reality forever, not just until the court changes its mind.
Yeah. So, I'll come in there because I've had quite a few things in front of this 4-justice majority. We almost went bankrupt because I lost a defamation case. We appealed it was clear in my mind that we appealed to the Supreme Court. They didn't take the case. We raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring a clear case that was a constitutional about voucher schools in Wisconsin. It's a clear violation of the Constitution that we have 2 separately funded school systems in Wisconsin, one for private voucher schools, which is primarily to religious schools, and others to public schools, which is what we clearly should be spending all of our money, our tax dollars on. We've done that as well. It's also been said that this 4 progressive majority Supreme Court has taken fewer cases in the last 20 years in 2025 than any other court has taken. So it is, in my mind, they are protecting the bedrock. I mean, they allowed us to have abortion again, and they un-gerrymandered our states, but almost everything else they're being way too cautious about. And to me, we've seen this over and over again. Judge Edelman, Eastern District, didn't help Judge Dugan get off from the craziest decision, which said that she actually committed a crime when ICE agents were sneaking into her courtroom and trying to arrest an immigrant who was simply there to be in court. I mean, we are seeing our judges. Some of the judges are strong. Some of the judges just are hoping they can pass the buck. They can pass the buck, and they can not be the one that gets in the way of the federal government. And to me, let's bring this up past Wisconsin, Patty. When are some of our judges going to understand that it's their decision is going to save America?
I honestly don't know. I mean, there's so much happening in so many of these courts every single moment, it feels like, and to have it hinge on how somebody interprets basically the future of our democracy it's just so hard to even conceive of, right? Look, I think that the way in which Wisconsin already has just so many elections. I didn't know how often Wisconsin voted, by the way. So what I'm saying is, even with everything else happening, and then this barrage of like primaries and elections, and Simon, seriously, Chris, you guys, what do you vote like every other week in Wisconsin? I feel like I was door knocking every single weekend for years up there.
I'll tell you, the fundraising texts never stop when you live here.
Yes.
The minute you cross the border, your phone is blowing up.
Right. So doesn't it become like background noise to folks? So like, even because a lot of people don't even realize who, like, the distinction between a state legislator and a congressional legislator to begin with. Right. I mean, I know that there are informed voters, of course, Wisconsin, because you are inundated with so much campaign material, but still, it's got to be hard to even cut through the noise.
Look, our judicial system wasn't designed for this. I just want to be clear. Like, I think this is not what our judicial system was designed to do. It's just that the rest of our branches of government have failed to act, and they failed to fix a problem. And now we're dependent on a bunch of folks who are not, and it's not designed for this. It's not designed to solve these problems.
I kind of think that you're letting him off the hook, Simon. Everybody that's a judge in Wisconsin had to go to law school. They had to learn about the Constitution. And they read the paper. They read national news. They know what's going on in Minneapolis. They knew what was going on in Chicago a couple of months ago. I mean, and they know that they are the last hope that we have. So I think you're letting them off a little bit too easily. They have to help us right now.
The courts have never been the defense of working people. It's always been the capacity for working people to build power. And courts are a last bastion of the rule of law. But frankly, we lost the rule of law a long time ago in this country. Yeah. It's worked. Again, we talked about Epstein earlier. Like, it's worked for the elites and not for, the average person in this country, a person of color, an immigrant, a person who's grown up without privilege. They're not going to have access to the same legal system as an elite. And our judges, as much as I wish they would do the right thing, I'm not going to count on them.
Chris, what do you have to say?
You're looking at the liberal justices at the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and I think what they're trying to do by doing less cases and being slower with the process, they're trying to give more legitimacy to the state Supreme Court, which frankly, for the past decade and a half, hasn't really had that much legitimacy, especially with some of these really rotten far-right rulings that they
hacks.
Yeah. But you're right. That's not the moment that we need right now. We need judges who are going to defend people, who are going to defend our rights. And when they don't, Simon's absolutely right. The working class has to step up and take that spot.
No one's coming to save us, Kirk.
Patty,
you have to let go of that.
Who are these famous judges that have law schools named after them in the United States Supreme Court that really changed? It was the Earl Warren Court, Louis Brandeis. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but we also had Dred Scott. I mean, like, we can give you tons of examples where it was horrible. I don't have to tell you. I mean, we've gone through these cycles before. You see this lawyer from the DOJ who said, "Please put me in contempt of court so I can just go to sleep in a jail cell." They're losing. If you have a law degree, I don't know how you keep your wits about you. And I agree with you. I wish that those who were in a position of power would do better by democracy, but I don't see it happening.
All right. Well, Patty, we're gonna get into it in our next segment, but I have to leave the audience with this before a commercial. We can't. Everybody in our government, judicial system, legislative branch, executive branch, we have to hold them to account. We have to find courage in this time, and even if these are nerdy judges who never expected they'd have to rise up, it's time for them to find a little bit of sauce in their belly. Because come on, I mean, there's too much at stake here. So with that,
more after this.
Take us away, Patty.
More after this on the Up North podcast on WCPT, KKNW and 1150.
The latest.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells Progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive beer, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Monaco Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MonacoMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MonacoMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacoMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells Progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get Progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our Progressive t-shirts. The Monaco Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MonacoMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MonacoMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacoMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth.
Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
And we are back with the Up North podcast and Monaco Brewing Company's very own Kirk Bangstad. Take it away, Kirk.
Okay, so when we were leaving the last segment before commercial, I honed in on something Simon said. And it's like our legal system has been broken for a very, very long time. There's two different systems, one for the billionaires and the millionaires and one for the rest of us. We can see that clearly in the Epstein files. And so, ultimately, we know that, the capitalism, the justice system, capitalism in America has turned into something that isn't capitalism anymore. It's crony capitalism. And the folks that have gotten rich off of crony capitalism are never going to get put in jail for the Epstein files. Similarly, they have an undue level of influence on Trump and on the Trump regime. And as long as they're getting rich, and as long as Trump is getting rich, they don't care if we get a dictatorship in America, and they don't care if we have fascism in America, and they don't care if people are put in detention centers, as long as it's not them being put in detention centers, and as long as they keep on accumulating wealth. So it's obvious we've got a huge problem. And one of the ways that, if we can't have free and fair elections in 2026, and I've been saying this for a year, there's only a few other ways that we have to accumulate power other than elections. And one is through striking, which we had Simon on talking about all night a week ago. The other one is boycotting products. And the goal for both striking and boycotting is to make it more painful for a billionaire oligarch to support fascism because they're getting bled dry through a strike or through a boycott than it is for them to leave the Trump regime, to disassociate themselves with the Trump regime and support democracy, because it's easier to keep your wealth if that's happening. And the only way that we can separate the oligarchs from the dictatorship of Trump is to make it painful for them, and it's to make them lose a ton of money. And so that is why, I've been working for a year to create an e-commerce site that tries to make it easy to boycott companies who have bent the knee to Trump. But before I talk more about that in our Kickstarter campaign, I wanted to get a little more historical background from Simon about the need for economic cooperatives in general in a resistance movement. Simon?
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole principle here is that fascism runs on the money that flows from the wealthy and the 1%. And frankly, it does. We know that. We've seen all the people who are dumping money into Trump. They're putting money into Trump's properties. They're putting money into, they're passing a bunch of money around and calling it economic growth. Cooperatives are one way that working people can take back control of the economy. Now, cooperatives that have been successful have often been successful in places where there have been significant labor movements that have taken over often private businesses and made them worker cooperatives. You see it in really small parts of the US economy where workers are given shares of companies as well as or ownership stakes in companies, as well as their regular salary. The tech sector for, in the small level has often been it looks a little bit like a worker cooperative, but you will never see this in like a Walmart or an Amazon. And why is this? Because the profits are massive. The stock prices, they explode, and they love paying dividends to their friends rather than to the workers that actually produce the value for these companies. I'll just use a couple of examples. In Spain, there's a corporation called the Mondragon Corporation that's a worker-owned cooperative. It came out of the Basque Country, and I believe it's about 80,000 workers. And it's this massive cooperative ecosystem that has developed out of the Basque Country in Spain. It's an incredibly powerful economic driver in Spain's economy. And it exists in part just because of the deep anger that working people had towards the capitalist system in Spain that led to a number of, you saw, communist revolutions, and you saw, working class people rising up and trying to take power there. And this was one of the ways they did it. In Emilia-Romagna in Italy, 30% of the businesses or 30% of their GDP, not just the businesses, their GDP comes from worker-owned cooperatives. And this is because these regions are able to basically put working people's lives ahead of the sort of pay out a bunch of money to shareholders and pretend like you're creating economic growth. This is part of the disconnect in the American economy from GDP and the way our stock market goes and the way working people's lives are feeling. It's because workers don't own the stock that they are producing value for.
Good stuff, Simon. There's a reason why we invite you to these podcasts, my friend. Chris, you wrote an article about this is a way to fight back as well. Can you kind of give us the elevator pitch for what your article was all about?
Yes, absolutely. So there are many different ways that we can resist against Donald Trump. Some of the ways I kind of mentioned in the article, it can be as simple as writing a Facebook post. It can be as big as joining a protest or joining a cooperative, doing all these other things. Boycott is an amazing way to get the attention of not only Trump, but the people who influence Trump. And if you can get their attention and if you can get under their skin a little bit, it's a great way. But there's two sides to the coin of a boycott coin, right? There's the boycott, but then there's also knowing where to spend your money when you're not spending it somewhere else. So it's all about finding those other places to shop at that can really, because you still need to purchase goods, you still need to be able to feed your family, that kind of thing. So where are you going to go when you're not going to these corporations? And knowing what those businesses are is really important.
Yeah, and that's what we've been. That's the hard thing, because a year ago I was like, okay, what do economic cooperatives mean? How do we stop the money? But I was like, but it's going to be really hard for people to stop shopping at Amazon or stop shopping at Target or stop shopping at Walmart because they don't know where to look for the substitutes, because the substitutes are generally small businesses in rural, in small businesses in neighborhoods. But if you don't live in a city, those small businesses don't exist. You don't get a toy store in Antigo, because that's Amazon. That's Walmart. So people in rural areas have no other place they can't shop local because they can't get all the stuff they need locally without going to these companies who have bent the knee. That's why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. Patty, didn't we mention yesterday on your show? There's this guy who's doing this thing called unsubscribe. Do you remember that
Scott
guy?
Galloway. Scott absolutely resists and unsubscribe, and he talks about how just even deleting his Uber app and going through the history of how much he'd taken rides came out to about $30,000. And now that he's living in the UK, I believe he's probably got access to better public transportation. It would be challenging for folks in Chicago, but it can be done wherever you live, whether it's your Uber Eats and food, whether it's your subscriptions to things like Paramount. I mean, he has on his website page, resist and unsubscribe, the reasons like AT&T and the money that they've given to this fascist regime, and all the different ways in which companies are taking that nickel and diming they've been doing for years, where we were kind of passive about it and go, yeah, I'm paying $7, $20 for a subscription. It makes a difference to your wallet, and it makes a difference to theirs, and that's where we need to make a difference and invest in companies and marketplaces like Minocqua Brewing Companies.
So the one thing that he mentioned was, I think Larry Ellison and his son, they bought CBS. I believe
that's Paramount too, right?
Paramount, and I think they might own CNN now too. Or he said that what they're doing is trying to own like 80% of legacy corporate media. If everything kind of goes through, and of course, there's no antitrust. The FCC is no longer an institution that we can trust, and so they're gonna let them get this these digital rights or these cable rights, and so they're slowly buying it all up. And the only way we can stop that is to unsubscribe from all of these media accounts that you kind of pay month to month for, and so obviously the Minocqua Marketplace is what we're doing. Is we're not going to try to take over the airwaves. I certainly don't have enough money for that. I certainly don't have enough pull with any venture capitalists, as been proven by the 3 months I spent trying to talk to rich people to fund this thing, which fell flat entirely. So what we're trying to do simply is to offer you a place to shop affordably that can find a substitute for every single product that you might buy on Amazon that you can get shipped to your home. That's what we're trying to do with the Minocqua Marketplace. I fell flat on my face trying to raise money for this over the last 3 months, seemingly because venture capitalists aren't feeling the pain like the working class are. They don't care necessarily about people getting disappeared off the streets because they're living in mansions on the coast. But the coasts are not getting pummeled right now like Minneapolis and Chicago is. So didn't get any money. I decided we got to take it to the people who are feeling the pain, and that is the working class and small businesses who are part of my group. We've got 90 small businesses now from across the country who are not enjoying any of the capitalist profits that the top corporations are getting, because there's a separate, even the business community is called the working class these days. The small business community, we are not corporate America. And so we're trying to get a bunch of small businesses together to be able to offer all the substitutes that any company, any person might need, so that we can boycott the folks who have bent the knee to Trump. And we've raised about $50,000, and the goal is 150,000. So we made about 33% of our goal in a couple of days, and I'm really excited about it. But I wanted to talk about it, and you're gonna hear me talk about it all month long, because we really need to pull in that another $100,000 before the end of the month.
So if anyone got a recent inheritance,
is it okay to plug Boycott Central? Because I don't think that's been mentioned on here. Go Google Boycott Central. They do a whole list of all the boycotts that are active. You'll see them up there. I just have to plug that before we break as well.
Excellent. Boycott Central. We'll make sure we get it up on the Facebook page as well. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. That's the Up North podcast. Kirk Bangstead, Chris Walker, Simon Rosenblum Larson. Please go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and subscribe to our Substack, and go to Kickstarter and look for Minocqua Brewing Company. Thank you, Lady B. Love you all.